Hey, welcome to the show, Leading and Growing Your Real Estate Business. This is Coach James Short, aka Shorty. And this is a show for those within the real estate industry wanting to lead and grow their real estate business. It's a series of interviews that we conduct for those within the industry. So we're finding out what those leaders are within the industry, what makes them tick, what's their story, what are their strategies, and how to become the leaders and the growers within the industry. But also, it's an interview series with those outside of the industry. I'm always a big believer of looking at a whole different part of the pie rather than just focusing on one part of the pie. Because what it does, it allows you to have a different perspective, allows you to get snippets or golden nuggets from those outside of the industry that can look in the industry and go, there's a different perspective. And so I encourage you to reach out to the guests. I encourage you to lean into these series to find out how can these pieces of information, experiences, stories help you lead and grow your real estate business. I'm excited, pumped, and ready to rock and roll with our next guest because he is a wealth of information. He is the man. I'm excited to get on the show. Anjay Zazulak from Property Mavens. He loves helping his clients secure high performance property. He says, as an experienced buyer's agent, his unique mix of education experience means he's exceptionally good at spotting property deals. His background as a renovator, sales agent, and property advocate allows him to use his research skills and property expertise to add value to a property and therefore help his clients grow wealth. As an experienced buyer's agent and vendor advocate at Property Mavens, he has helped buyers buy the right property, whether as an investment or home to live in. Property investment is in his DNA. His grandfather was a home builder, and his father would help him on site. Later on, they would have gone on to buy and renovate over 45 properties on their own as they currently speak. And as a result, many people ask for advice on property investment, which has led him to write a book, The Homeowner's Guide to Property Investment. Now, if you'd like a copy of this book, we're sending out for the first 10 people. We'll get that through to you. Property, tennis, and writing is his passions, along with sharing what he knows with others. Competing in a professional level in masters tennis helps him keep fit and his mind sharp. Competitive by nature, he's very driven with working with our clients. Easy for him to find the right property as a meticulous, analytical, and likes to use his numbers with sound decisions. After completing a Bachelor of Property, he worked in sales before becoming a property scout, researching and buying properties and becoming a full-time career. It's excited and very, very fortunate to have, because I know he's a busy man, him on the show. He's helped dealing with over 1,000 agents in his career and recommended and engaged the best-selling agent for his job when he calls to clients to sell their home. It's an honor and a privilege. I'm going to hear more about his history to get him on the show. Anjay, mate, thank you so much for your time, and mate, good to have you on.
Thank you, James. Much appreciated. Thanks for having me.
Mate, 45 properties. You guys, what as a family? I mean, I've been watching The Block recently, and you see
Yeah.
those couples, going for it. And I know it's for TV purposes, but renovating and selling and buying over 45 properties, that's a huge effort as a family. How?
Yeah.
Tell me the truth. Has it always been smooth sailing, or do you have your lovely disagreements?
It's not smooth sailing at all. It's we're well over 45, but I thought I'd give a good number. Uh, I kind of love and hate the block at the same time.
Yep.
It's because when we renovate, it, like what they do is not reality. Like they're trying
So
to
true.
they overcapitalize. It's just people said, "Oh, why don't you and your dad go on the block?" And that would be entertaining purposes because he's the labourer and I'm the shopper. He'd be doing all the work and I'd just be ordering him around, and then he'd yell at me. But when I guess, but our home, if we did it logically and we're on the block, we would probably wouldn't win any of the rooms because in reality, we're very neutral when it comes to sort of colors and designs. Yeah, they're practical, but it's just like we're not going to wow people. It's
Yep.
because like when you're renovating a home, and let's say because the whole purpose for us is to and then on sell it at some stage. Like if you put purple walls here or just go with out there designs, like you're not going to attract the whole market. And when you come into selling home, you want to attract as many different types of buyers, whether it be an investor, an owner occupier, like a downsizer, first home buyer. So if you put all these radical things out there, like people don't have vision, so they go, "Oh, it's got a purple wall, don't like it." And it's like, okay, you put some paint on it, you can change that, but it's yeah. So how we do things is probably not what would be seen to the well in the block size as the judge's favorites, but in another sense, people would probably pay a higher price for our property than they would for one of those.
Love it. I love it. So, Property Mavens, right? You've had an incredible journey within the industry, and you've gone through it. What I like of how you're helping people is because you've had the experience from buying, selling, renovating, investing. Like, if you take us back to those, those humble beginnings of putting your foot into the real estate industry, how was that for you? Was it an easy selection to go, make sense? Um, Tell us a bit about that initial background for you.
Well, I guess for me, it's very different, obviously, to a lot of others. So, and as you mentioned in the bio, it's property is in my DNA. So, like with your granddad being a builder and who taught dad sort of his side of things, he had nothing to do with property per se until sort of in my teenage years. He had excess money and was started going, oh, I can create wealth through property. So I started investing in homes. So on weekends when I wasn't playing tennis, we were stripping wallpaper, ripping out kitchens, lifting up carpet. And I just thought that's what everyone did, but apparently not. So that's kind of how we got into it. And then like I had dreams of going pro tennis, but I guess injuries curtailed that career. And then as a result, I kind of had to go to uni, or I didn't have to go, but my mum kind of forced me to go. And at the time, there was a Bachelor of Property. I could have done that or accounting. And mum just goes, oh, let's go Bachelor of Property. So I had a lot of interest in property. So I'm probably the most overqualified buyer's agent there is, having like a degree in property, obviously having renovated God knows how many homes now. And then but that's also been, I guess, my blessing and strength to help others. Like when you've been doing this for, I'd say 25, 30 plus years now, directly or indirectly, but that's why people do come to me. Like I can see how to value add when it comes to properties. It's, I guess I see what other people don't see, but also having done so many renovations, it's like when you look at a property that does need cosmetic work, whether it be paint, flooring, kitchens, bathrooms, I pretty much know roughly how much it's going to cost. So let's say, for example, you got $1 million property with, I won't say if it's a house or a unit, but it's if it's going to cost 50 or 60K to do a reno or minor reno, is that going to be worth it where you're buying or where you're living? For some areas that may be overcapitalization, so it's not going to add much value. Okay, if you're living there, then it might help you with your, I guess, your comfortability in living in that home. But if you're looking for capital growth or manufacturing equity, sometimes people go, oh yeah, I'm going to do a reno, and then they spend the money on the reno, but then they overcapitalize or the market they're in isn't going to increase it. So that's how, like, as my job has now helped in going to help others, I have to identify, okay, is the property worth renovating that we're looking at buying? And if it is it going to add value?
Hey guys, just a little side note here. How's it going? Are you on track this year? I know that sometimes this part of the year we can feel like we're in a bit of a grind, a bit of in the trenches. Are you on track from the original plans that you set out for the rest of this year? What I've realized is that between with this time of year, we get so distracted and we've got trying to chase so many shiny balls and go down so many rabbit holes. And that's why I created a program called the 90. It's a framework that actually allows you to achieve more in 90 days than ever before. some of the feedback that we've got from some of the people that have used the process, the 90, is that they've achieved more in 90 days than the whole previous year. So if you'd like to have the tools, have the techniques, have the framework on the 90, so you and your team can achieve more in 90 days than ever before. What it does, and it impacts you of how to get clear, what you need to do, and who you need to be to show up in order to achieve the things you want to achieve over the next 90 days. Simply head over to jamesshort.com.au, click on join the waitlist, fill in your details, and one of the team members will be in touch and take you through the 90 framework. On with the show. Love that. And that's what I love about with your experience and your expertise is that because you can see it from like so many different angles and so many different viewpoints, rather than just as a buyer's agent, where when you can see the development, you can see the investment, you can see the renovation component of it, because you've had that experience and you've walked that talk over the last 25, 30 years. And I guess if you look at the industry as well within the buyer's agency, like that has started to really skyrocket, particularly, I guess, what over the last 10, 15 years. And you would have seen a massive change within the industry around particularly how real estate agents view buyer's agents and the power now where most are actually the pennies dropping and working with great buyer's agents like yourself. It really adds massive value to the vendors and also, you know, putting these deals together. What have you seen as the biggest shifts within the industry that you can see over the times that you've been within the industry?
It's probably more so in the last 5 years. There's been an influx of buyer's agents, and that's because of potentially some courses out there that are offering. I won't go into what exactly, but it's saying, oh, you can be a buyer's agent part time and X amount on the site. Where I don't see a buyer's agency as a part-time job. It's a lot of us who have been in the industry for 5, 10 years plus, like we've done our apprenticeship, like yeah, you're an assistant to start with, then you get your license after 2 to 3 years, and then obviously you can either become your own principal or work. Like there's a lot of people who may, it would seem, taking shortcuts. And I guess that sort of differs from the people who are actually doing the right thing. So having more buyer's agent in the industry is not necessarily a bad thing, but the ones that are kind of learning on the job, and you're talking about sort of hundreds of thousands of dollars of people's money here. So like even like 400, 500, $600,000, and you're trusting someone to do the right job for you as a buyer's agent. And if they're just learning with your money and they make a bad decision, that can negatively affect you over the next 5 to 10 years. So
Definitely.
that's the tough thing with obviously what's happened in the industry. So it's yeah, I think people just have to be careful in who they choose. And if you can get someone that's had 5 years or more, there's still some good ones that have been doing it for 3 to 5 years. If they've been doing it for less than 3 years, I'd say be careful.
Yeah. Talk to me about the real estate agent and the buyer's agent relationship. Like we've seen some great relationships form in helping with the purchase of a property. Where can that really work well, and then where can that, I guess, really fall down? It's based from your experience and what you've seen.
Relationships are key, and that's what's helped me, I guess, be successful and grow within the industry. For example, one of the areas that I do a lot of work in is the Albury-Wodonga area. So I do spend a lot of time down there. And part of that reasoning was to, I guess, build the relationships with the 100+ agents in the area. And just to give maybe a few examples, but having those relationships. So one of my clients a few years back, and this was kind of just around when COVID was happening, like there was an off market that came up of a pretty good home, and there was interest from other buyers, but because I had the relationship with that agent, even though they offered slightly more than my offer, because I'm buying off them regularly, we secured the property. as a result, that property's gone up by about $300,000 over the last 2.5 years.
Wow.
So, that's kind of one indication, but it's just if you do have good relationships with the agents, then they will give you preferential treatment over your typical buyer because your typical buyer, they may be a first-time buyer, they may not be, but if they haven't built up that relationship with the agent, like the agent doesn't know if they're flaky, if the sale's going to fall through. If you're a good buyer's agent and you do a good job and the agents know that, they will give you priority over those other buyers.
Hmm. I love that. And I think that's so true. As you said, the key word there, relationships and building those relationships. And I think so often many people within the industry become more of a transactional type of relationship person rather than actually building a relationship and finding out, going a little bit deeper and building that know, like, and trust component within those relationships. And I think that's particularly for if you're working with buyers agents, real estate agents, or anyone in the industry, I think that's one of the super important component. How have you developed that skill, those relationship building skills over the years? Like, because, you said over 100 agents in Albury, Wodonga, and I guess all over the place as well. How do you manage and make sure you're on top of that relationship management process? What are there any things that you can share with us that helps you to keep on top of that?
Oh, it's a tough one because you can't have a great relationship with every single agent.
Yeah.
It's and I think like if you break those 100 down, I would say I'm in regular contact with probably, let's say, 10th of them, 10 of them. And I think that's just being realistic. And I think it's good. Like you'll talk to the other ones, but there's, I think, key ones that you'll work with when it comes to sort of selling or buying. So, and they're not all in the same sort of price point. So you might have three in a certain price point and another three in a certain price point. So, let's say, for example, or I'll just break it down to a few different categories, like let's say 400 to 800, 800 to a mil, or 1.2 and then 1.2 up. But you might not have the same agent in the three different price points. And then with me, it's just like I then send them either a text or an email each week saying, okay, these are the briefs I've got. So you can't really, well, you're always in communication with them. And then they'll also be calling you or texting you saying, all right, we've got this off market or this property come up. Do you have someone that would be interested? So I think it evolves. It's just when you're dealing with them on a week to week basis, the communication just becomes, I guess, normal. It's just like speaking to anybody else.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that constant communication is so important because once again, that builds that relationship component. Having that constant regular touch points and however you do those touch points is super important to build those relationships. Now, if we talk about market, now I know you love the Albury Wodonga area,
Yeah.
and there's a few other areas that you love. What is it for you about Albury that ticks the boxes for you?
Well, I guess having been buying here for the last 10 years, uh, what people don't realize is it's got more fundamentals than most capital cities when it's going for it. So if you use Terry Ryder for an example, he has done reports on Albury continuously, and year on year for the last 10 years, it's had an average capital growth between 8 to 13%, depending on suburbs. So if you look at that data compared to sort of the likes of WA, South Australia, or Queensland, year on year, those areas can't compete with it. It's just like they've been very good for the last, let's say, 2.5, 3.5 years, but for the 5 to 7 years prior to that, their capital growth was pretty bad. What drives, I guess, Albury Wodonga and why I like the consistency to it is because you've got two TAFEs, two unis, two private hospitals, two public hospitals, because being on the border, you've got New South Wales and Victoria. Then you've got the ATO, you've got the biggest defence force, or one of the biggest defence forces in Albury, Wodonga. You've got agriculture, you've got manufacturing, you've got logistics, you've got construction, you've got tourism. So you've got another 20,000 people moving to the area in the next 5 to 10 years. So with the capital growth, you've got shortage of rentals, which then increases the rental returns as well. So on average, you get about 4.5 to 5.5% returns. You can manufacture the rent, so you can get 6 to 7%. It's quite easy to rent out furnished listings, which will give you an additional $150 to $200 per week. So if people are after like a 6, 7% plus return, there's ways of doing it. But I think it's you also got to look at the capital growth, and from a consistency perspective, that's why uh, it has been good for me and my clients over the last 10 years. And because of the price point, it's at a reasonable price point. Like you can't get a decent property in Sydney for $600,000. That's worth buying.
Yeah. It's all right.
I would just say that worth buying.
Yeah.
And the same with Melbourne. Like, yes, you can buy sort of houses in some areas for 600,000, but are they? Would I buy them? No. It's just there are other pockets around the country that you can buy that would get you a better growth or rental return.
Yeah, love it. Fantastic. And what's on the horizon for you? Are there any things that you're currently working on or in the pipeline that it's coming up over the next 6 to 12 months that you're working on?
There's always things we're working on, but it also depends on people and their budgets. There's a great opportunity, let's say between that sort of $1.5–2 million range, to do duplexes in Albury. So you can do a duplex build as well as a purchase for around that sort of 1.7 to 1.9 mark. And there's about between 20 to 30% returns on those. So it's kind of taking the Sydney model and bringing it to Albury. So there is a demand for that higher end product. And there are a few other things that I'm working on, but can't talk about at this stage.
I love it. I love it. Now,
To be continued.
yeah, typically I love that. Watch this space. So your book, right? Let's talk about, I mean, because you've written this book because to help to educate people and to take them on that journey. What sparked that idea of the book and where did that come from?
I think it's just where did it come from? I guess it came from people always asking me the same questions. It's like, how do you do it? Where do you buy? What do you buy? Where do you start? Can you help us? And it just kind of was the same questions coming over and over again. And I see it on like Facebook groups and other things. It's just like people go, oh, like where should I be buying or what should I be buying? And I kind of mentioned to you the other day, it's just purchasing like in the book, I've got the 5 Ps and purchasing's the last one. It's just like where and what you buy is not the first thing you'd be doing it. It's just like you've got the planning stage, like why is planning important? You've got your finance approval. It's just like if you don't know what your finances are before purchasing, then that could be a big mistake because you get a lot of people that go to an auction without having a pre-approval or any approval, and then they pay too much for a property and they can't afford it, and then they're freaking out. So then you got preparation, like setting up a brief, like because depending on your budget and what your strategy is, not everybody's strategy is the same. It's not a one size shoe fits all. Then you got your partnerships, and then purchasing's the last part. So that's kind of a brief insight to some of the things that you can read in the book. But it's those, whether you don't have the book or not, but those are some of the key aspects that we've integrated into our purchasing over the last sort of 25 plus years indirectly without knowing it. And then when I broke it down, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
That's so good. And so you're offering 10 copies for the first 10 people to send their details through. What's the best email to send that through to?
That would be, and you'll probably put it up, but it's AZAZULAK. So my surname, at propertymavens.com.au.
Yeah, so we'll put that into the show notes as well. But for those who are listening to that, make sure you send your email through, grab your book. It's a great read and highly recommended. So, AJ, on our show, we have our 60-second quiz to find out a bit about our guests. Are you willing to play?
Yep.
Oh, here we
Sure.
go.
All right.
Sure. Yeah. All right, here we go. Favorite movie?
Cool Runnings.
Oh, nice. Favorite food?
Don't-
Yum. Favorite holiday destination?
I'd say Maldives was my most exotic, though Malaysia tends to be my go-to.
Yeah, nice. What's your morning routine?
Well, varies day to day, depending on what I have on the mornings. But and I guess being a business owner gives you that flexibility. But when I'm in a normal routine, it's usually gym followed by practicing with my ball machine on the tennis court, hitting serves, shower, and then get into the day.
Yeah, fantastic. What about an evening routine?
Watching some mindless dumb TV.
Nice. Do you have a most embarrassing moment?
Oh, yeah, given a crush in primary school an Easter egg and then getting roasted for all the kids in my class for doing so.
Woo, ouch. If you could choose five inspirational people to have dinner with, who would they be? They could be dead or alive.
Andre Agassi, Dana White, Steve Hansen, Nelson Mandela, and Mother Teresa.
Oh, fantastic. And if you're prime minister for the day, what's one thing that you would change?
Get rid of stamp duty.
Oh, nice. And what's your best piece of advice?
Be kind to others and do good.
Yeah, I love it. Fantastic. And we'll put these in the show notes as well, but where can the audience follow you, reach out, get more information from you?
Mobile is a good one. So 0410 the email, which we said. Facebook. Well, I don't even know what my Facebook is. I'll have to give you those links.
That's fine, all good.
LinkedIn. LinkedIn is an easy one. I've got 9,500 connections on there, so that's probably where most people do follow me.
Love it.
I haven't
Fantastic.
been very good with the Facebook and Instagram, but they are work in progress coming up.
Great LinkedIn profile. Go out and check his profile. It's heaps of information on there as well. AJ, really thank you for your time, energy, and expertise. And mate, always awesome having you on the show.
Thanks, James. Much appreciated, and thanks for having me.